When is the right time to perform a water change on your saltwater aquarium during and after the nitrogen cycle? Let's talk about it. Hey, I'm Logan from Reef Rookies, where I'm going to help you demystify saltwater aquaria and take some of the vitriol out of the reef keeping community. You don't need to be worried about asking those questions that you have, because we're not going to treat you poorly for asking them. So when you're talking about water changes with your saltwater aquarium, there's two different phases of the tank that you need to consider: the nitrogen cycle phase and then everything after that. During those two phases, the reasons for doing water changes are going to be pretty much the same, but you would do them at different times. So during the nitrogen cycle, if you're doing a fishless nitrogen cycle, you don't need to do a water change unless your ammonia gets way out of whack, like 5 parts per million and higher. Otherwise, leave it alone, let it do its thing, and let it run through the cycle and finish, and you'll be good to go. Now, if you're doing a fish in nitrogen cycle, which means you have animals in the tank, you never want that ammonia to go above 0.25. Ammonia is incredibly toxic to fish, and if it gets over 0.25, it's already doing damage to the gills and the organs in your fish, even if you're not seeing any symptoms in that animal. So once you hit that point of ammonia, and you should be tracking this almost every day, you're going to want to go ahead and do a water change and bring that ammonia level down. And so that's the basic idea around the nitrogen cycle time to do a water change. It's pretty much just based on the ammonia content in the water. Now, the phase of the aquarium that's everything after the nitrogen cycle, there's basically 3 times where you're going to want to perform a water change. The first one is that there is a toxin that has been introduced into the aquarium, and you need to get it out quickly and in large volumes. Something like an anemone has been chopped up by a pump, or a kid ran by the tank and oops, I've spilled a bunch of something in the tank, and you need to get that stuff out. You can start prepping and perform a quite large 50 to 75, 80, 90% water change. And that's a good time and a good reason to do that. The second reason for performing a water change on your saltwater aquarium is that you have an excess of nutrients that are not being exported in any other way. If your filtration can't keep up, or if you don't have functional filtration that's not doing the job, you're trying to change some things around on the tank or whatever, and it's not being taken out of the tank by other means, then you can do a water change to physically remove those nutrients from the tank and get them into acceptable levels and ranges. And the third and final reason that you might need to do a water change on your tank is that you have a mixed reef or something, and you have a lot of corals in your tank that are using up the trace elements in the tank, and you're not replenishing those trace elements by any other means. You're not dosing, and you're not adding things to the tank to replace those trace elements. Doing a water change is going to do that for you, as long as you have a good quality salt. Now, of course, this is a very basic explanation, but just about every circumstance that I can think of falls into one of those 3 categories. You either have a toxin you need to get out, you have excess nutrients you need to get rid of, or you have trace elements that need to go back in. Other than that, you don't need to do one. Just let that tank ride.